We are live. Hey, hello everyone. Welcome for another episode of the Puppet Podcast. I'm Caroline. I'm doing those wonderful interviews with puppeteers from all over the world, and I want to connect with you if you are a puppeteer. I want to connect with the community and bring more eyes towards this art form. So tonight I have the chance to have the man behind Toybox Theatre. Here is it. Is Keith. So I will bring him in the screen in a moment. But before, I just want to invite everyone for this wonderful gala we do this weekend. It's on Saturday at 2 East time. So if you're in UK, 7 o'clock. If you're in Pacific, it's at 11. So yeah, here's the invitation. So it's the Puppet Podcast Gala. Basically, we want to get through this whole adventure that we have done before the pandemic, with the pandemic, like how the statistic and the connection just still growing, and like it's exponential how we connect with more great people. And I'm so happy to discover the talent and the fact that puppeteers like still really into this art form, and they want to share their art form. So yeah, let's just connect on Saturday. Join us. It's free. It's on Zoom, and we will just see the face of each other, bring some puppets, and be swell, well dressed, and have fun. So here was the commercial, but I want to bring in the screen someone who is now in North Carolina, who perform a lot in New Orleans. Please, drum roll for Keith Shubert. I love
Hello.
to make it.
Hello, Caroline.
Hello.
So good to see you. And thank you so much for having me on your show today.
Yes, I'm so happy. I get the chance to see you in action during the weekend because you were in this Fringe Festival edition. I want yourself, Keith, to introduce you to the people who are watching right now.
Sure. So my name is Keith Shubert, and I am a puppeteer and puppet builder, also toy maker, entertainer, and also event curator. I've worked to curate lots of puppetry festivals in the United States over the last couple years, as well as curating a regular show that I do called the Wham Bam Puppet Slam, which is a puppet variety show that you're saying you got to see this weekend as part of the Asheville Fringe Festival, which is another event that I've helped to bring puppetry to for probably the last 10 years. So maybe a little bit more. Getting old.
But passionate. I saw your character, because that's what fascinates me. It's that you do this like performance in character, and you bring so much life and so much personality to this Fringe edition that I really enjoy, and I feel the New Orleans influence. Could you say that you're influenced by this culture? Or?
Sure. I mean, you know how it is, like when you work with creative people and puppeteers and clowns and sideshow and vaudeville variety, all of that sort of, I think, melting pot when you work with people all over the country and even the world. When you work with different artists, of course, they have a lot of influence on yourself, and you pick up tips and tricks from watching other people perform live and how you can incorporate that. So yeah, I mean, to be clear, to clarify with people that don't know, I also work as a character MC. I perform as a character called Toybox, America's favorite cartoon witch, and the character does a lot of storytelling, puppet shows, improv comedy, but also I incorporate aspects of traditional clown also in my performance.
Yes, and I think people know, like we have Chad here who say it's America's favorite cartoon witch, who just like pop it up in the chat. Like everyone, if you want to ask also a question to Keith, just feel free to write it down and I will bring it in the screen.
Sure.
So Keith, are you ready for the deep question of the Puppet Podcast?
I'm going to try my best. Yes.
Yes, because it's always the same question, but I feel we dig into it more and more, and that's what interests me. I want to know the why. Like, why do you cherish the art of puppetry?
Why do I cherish puppetry? Well, I mean, I feel like it's such a particular form of magic, of stage magic, that nothing else can sort of recreate. There's nothing else like it. It's like the most successful way to sort of augment reality in front of your person. Besides, it's connected, I think, to like a stage magician, but it's something more, because you see an object that is not alive, but when you can make that personal connection live and you see it come to life, it's so magical, and there's nothing else like it, and I think that's why what draws me to it, really.
Yes, that's such a great answer, because I feel you're not like the only one who talk in terms of magic, and that's really interesting. We have Nicole who say Toybox is magic. So yes, I think you get the message through the crowd with what you're doing also.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's not just a magic in the sense of like a stage magician or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's really magical. It's really magical, and it's a really magical thing. Like it's a real life magic that there's nothing like it. And it's like other puppeteers have said before, that you sort of, when you're doing a puppet show, there's this sort of moment sometimes where you enter another dimension, and the puppet comes to life and does things, or maybe even says things that you didn't expect, and I believe that is true. I mean, for some of my performances, I work with other puppeteers that I perform my shows with me, and there's been performance before where I've done the whole show and just like went into like a completely different zone, where I had to ask my other puppeteer, did I do all the stuff that I was supposed to do? Did I say all my lines? And they turn and look at me and say, oh yeah, you were amazing, and I was like, okay, good, because I don't remember what just happened, so it is sort of this like transportive thing that is really, really magical, I believe.
Wow, that's such well said. I feel you have a lot of anecdote also in your experience and stage experience. I want to know your crush moment. It's funny because I feel every puppeteers have a moment in the past that they say they get the crush for puppetry. They have a moment, like a spark for this art form. So do you have one?
I think so. I always have been interested in puppetry my whole life, since I was a child, and seeing shows on television, like Sesame Street, of course, and Mr. Rogers and the Muppet Show, and also where I live, I grew up in Chicago area, so we had some regional shows, like Giggle Snort Hotel, but then other things too, like Great Space Coaster and these sort of like old TV shows. And so I always loved that stuff. And I actually did my first puppet show, I think, when I was in 6th grade for an audience, not just playing with my toys at home, but for an audience, was in 6th grade. And I think in the 90s, when I was going to college, and I actually have a degree in elementary education. So I was going to be a teacher for children. And during that time, I was doing a lot of puppetry in the classroom because I really see a very powerful connection with puppetry and learning, where you can use puppetry to connect with any subject. And the it doesn't matter if it's math or social science or history or literature, whatever. You can use puppetry for that. And the act of a child going through the process of making a thing, and with the focus of that thing being whatever lesson you're trying to learn, the process of them making the thing and then having that thing to keep forever as a personal artifact at the end is so powerful. And so, when I was in college, that was something that I was very passionate about and very interested in doing. And so during that time, I was also going into the city, and I was seeing a lot of live puppetry by groups like Red Moon Theatre and Histopolis and Theater Oobleck, and these sort of very weird, dark, sort of Chicago adult puppetry. It was very adult puppetry. And I think that was like my first sort of crush moment. I was also in this time like making stop motion animations and video projects. And so I was going to see all this live puppetry in the 90s, adult puppetry in the 90s, to sort of inform what I was doing in the classroom, as well as to inform me doing these sort of video shows. But this was before there was something like YouTube. So I was making these really cool short films, but then at the end of the day, if we didn't have like a showing where we invited people and showed, this short 10-minute movie, no one saw it, and so I sort of like re-examined everything, and just really, I think those were the things that gave me that crush moment, was the sort of darker adult puppetry that I started to see in Chicago in the 90s was really a heavy influence on me to say this, this is so much more immediate and so much more visceral, and there's no degree of separation between the screen when you're watching it. It's like it's right there and it's moving before your eyes. And so at that point, I think that was when I, sort of when I graduated college, and I sort of re-examined everything that I was doing and thought about it and said, well, what did I really like about all my experience? And I was like, it's about puppetry. It's about doing puppetry. And I love to see the live puppetry. And so from there, I went to study at the Art Institute of Chicago with Blair Thomas, who is the founder and creator of Red Moon Theatre, which was this Chicago company that was, something that I completely fell in love with. So suddenly I was like, mentoring under this artist and working with him. And, so I think that would probably be what I would consider my crush moment. But I think that it goes back even to when I was a child.
Yes, I think and it's a real complete, amazing answer. And it's funny because when you were talking, the chat go a bit crazy. So I'm just like, wow, okay, it's kind of making people react. So let me show you some of the comments that we have here.
Sure.
So yeah, Heidi say kids' stories are the best too, because you were talking about kids. And yes, we have so much. Like Nicole talk about, like, yeah, let me just bring all of those so everyone could read it. So yeah, we have all adult puppetry also. I think it's a lot of some people identify also to to that. So yeah, so amazing. So cool. And I want to ask you the field of study, because you mentioned to study under someone was key for you. I want to know, in your opinion, the best field of study to become a puppeteer.
Well, okay, this is a very interesting question, and I'm glad you asked it, because for me, when I started to get into puppetry, it was a different time. There wasn't no internet, so you had to meet real puppeteers in person, and you had to go and see their work and learn from them. That was the only way. And maybe read an article in a magazine, or check out books from the library. Those were the ways that you had to learn about puppetry at this time. And so I went to study at the Art Institute of Chicago as a formal training. And what's so interesting about this experience for me is that because I wanted to learn things like materials and how to make puppets and how do you build puppets and what do you get, what kind of tools do you need, and all of that kind of stuff. That's what I wanted to learn. Okay. Yeah. Because at this point I was just making it up at home. I had no YouTube to look at how to make something. I was just making up my own methods, from things that I learned in grade school and, art classes, whatever. And so when I went to the Art Institute, what is so fascinating is that I did a study with Blair Thomas, who is a famous Chicago puppeteer and very well revered in the United States. And the class that we did was all performative. There was no building. And I didn't know that when I took the class. And, and so all we did was perform little skits with like a hand puppet like this and our person. And we had to do some sort of interaction. And he would tell us like a small imperative, like say, you're having an argument, or you're going to create a piece to some music, or you're happy together, or you're trying to convince the puppet something, or the puppet is trying to convince you something. Like he would give us a small sort of directive. And then we were in this large warehouse space, and all the puppeteers would go to separate rooms, and in a room by ourselves, we would create the skit, we would create the play, and then come back and then perform it for the group. And then the group would critique, and we'd talk about the things that people were doing well, the things that they needed to work on. And so at first, it was sort of like terrifying for me, because, part of why I wanted to become a puppeteer was because I thought you could just hide behind a curtain and not have to be seen and only use the object. And all of this performance was actor and puppet together. And it was transformative. It was and I realized that I was a good entertainer in this experience, and that I myself was funny and smart and clever and successful as an entertainer. And at first, when I took the class and I found out what we were going to do, I was disappointed. I was like, oh, but I want to learn how to make puppets. I don't want to do this. But then, after a few days of doing it, I realized, like, this is amazing, and this is exactly what I needed to do. This is what I needed to do. And so, he gave us the puppets that were sort of like larval puppets. So they were blank face. So you could project any face on. And I started to, because we were in the city, I started to take the puppet out around the city. And I started doing these acts that we were doing in the class on the street for people, like just keep practicing, because I was obsessed with it. I was like, this is amazing. Like I can do this with this puppet that has nothing. It's nothing. It's blank, and so it was a very amazing experience for me. So that's really the only training. And then, later I've done other sort of intensive workshops with other master puppeteers and learned how to, work within their styles and different things for, wood carving or also like marionette design. I did a master class intensive with Philip Huber and learned how to make a marionette in his style. And other master puppeteers I've done these sort of like intensive studies with as well. So.
Yes, and that's so interesting that you bring the entertainment aspect of the job, like as the thing that we don't know but we discover, and that puppetry is really an entertainment art form. I really like it's kind of a new aspect that I discover with your answer. It's great.
I mean, I think it's entertainment, but it's also educational and emotional and transformative, and you can bring this sort of you can convey any sort of real feeling and real emotion through puppetry art. It doesn't always have to be funny. It can be terrifying. It can be personal. It can be political. And it can be also an agent of change. And through this art form, because it is so visceral when you see it live and so magical, that it can affect people and it can help them. I think it's also good for therapy. And this is something amazing too. Another amazing thing early in my career was I had made a friend in my town who people sort of make fun of this man and thought that he was weird because he walked with a big stick and he looked sort of like a wizard and he walked not good, and there was something wrong with him, and one day I met this man and I thought, people make fun of him and people are mean to him, and I didn't like it,
Yeah.
So I met this man and I became his friend, and I found out the reason why he was like this was because he was deaf. He couldn't hear. And so he had no balance. So he needed the stick to help him walk. And that was the only thing wrong with him. But because he couldn't hear, because he was deaf, he had poor balance. And also he talked funny. Right.
Uh-huh.
And so I made a friendship with this man, and it ended up being amazing because I invited him to my rehearsal and he couldn't hear any of my dialogue. He couldn't hear any of the things that I said. But when I heard him laughing, I knew that I was doing something right because he was only seeing the movement and not hearing my jokes, So it was quite an amazing thing. And, and I think it was amazing for him too, that someone, took time to like understand him and, share this magic with him. So.
Totally. It's the role of artists. I feel you were kind of wide open and just like welcome the other human and just do your art. It's amazing. That's a awesome story. And let me ask you this tricky question about your definition. In your own word, what is a puppet for you?
I feel like a puppet is it's nothing more than art that moves in a real time, in a temporal space that is a physical tactile object that is moving in real time before you, right? So, I feel like there's puppets like traditional puppets, but also things, I think, like robotics could be puppetry, right? Or even just a piece of silk could be used as a puppet. So I think that puppetry is anything like art that moves. I've seen people do a show where, they were doing a puppet of a bird and it was just a big scissors, things like this. So objects could become puppets. if it has an intention to become animated in a temporal space, and is a tactile, visceral thing with an intention, I think, really.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love that. And we have question from the crowd. Let me bring Nicole. Yes. So, did you have stage fright? That's a good question. It's so. What are some interesting way of or overcome it? So,
I mean, I did, early in my career, I think I did have some stage fright and was nervous about being on stage and nervous about my performance, but it's been a very long time since that. And now where I'm at in my life, I actually feel more comfortable being on a stage than I do sometimes at a party or at a bar. I feel more uncomfortable in a social setting sometimes than I do being on stage, because it's my element, and I know
yeah.
that when I'm there, I can command the audience and draw them in and make them laugh or make them feel sad or make them think or whatever, in a way that sometimes you can't in a social setting where, you get into a conversation and somebody is trying to dominate the conversation. It's just like, I'm done. I don't even want to try to fight with this, So.
Yeah. That's so interesting. That's a good anecdote. That's true. We feel comfortable on stage. And let me ask this question. I have two main other question I want to ask you. Like,
Sure.
do you feel puppetry is in an ascension? Do you feel how you feel like the rhythm of the art form? Is it more popular in your vision or not?
I feel like it's always there. It's always sort of I don't think that it's an ascension, but I don't think that it's descension either. I think it's just a constant. It's a constant part of art and entertainment that will always exist, and it will always be prevalent. There are moments, when you say like Team America came out, or when Being John Malkovich came out, then it was really popular in those times. But that was also in a time period where we didn't have internet, right? So involved in the sort of like zeitgeist of what is in people's periphery, everyone saw those films. Where now there's so much information available on the internet in so many different forms. There's no sort of like cross section where everyone sees the same thing. It's very rare, and so I think that it will always be in just a sort of constant place where it shows its prominence, and there'll always be things that are significant and that people will pay attention to.
That's great. That's good. I observe the similarity on that. And I want to ask you also your like purpose with puppetry. Like, do you have something you envision? You say to yourself, I want to go there. My dream is to realize this piece. Or do you have some chunky dreams like that with puppetry?
I mean, of course, right? Of course, there are ideas that I have for puppet plays that I want to create in my life, and that when I was younger, I've been doing puppetry over 20 years, so when I was younger, I had these big ideas for a play, and then I said, oh, but I'm not ready to try and do it. I'm not ready to try and make that yet. I need to be more master. I need to understand more. And, now it's more just like when I have the idea, I'm just like, just make it, just make it something. And if it is good as you want, it's good as it'll be, and people always like it. But I mean, as far as like things, I feel like I'm doing a lot of what I want to do, a lot of my career and a lot of what I try and do in my work is also just promoting the art of puppetry and promoting other people that are doing it and different styles. And so I love to curate events. I love to curate festivals, which I've been doing that stuff for the last few years of, you know, in New Orleans and for Puppeteers of America and local events here in my town. And, you know, now on because of the pandemic, I'm doing more shows online, which, you know, a lot of my shows online are, the intention is to promote puppetry arts and promote different people whose work that I find relevant or magnificent or just amazing, and that I want more people to see. And so I'm doing those things, you know. But, you know, so of course, someday I would like to have like my own theater and have a space that had, you know, a little shop and a place where, you know, instead of me having to drive to New Orleans and drive to Michigan and drive to Chicago, I could just have everyone come to me and do a show in my own community. And, you know, so I guess that would be something really that I would love to do someday, is have my own theater. But, you know, I think a lot of what I want to do, I am doing, and I am doing it to some degree of success.
Yes. And yeah, you must be with a lot of gratitude, because I saw you. I was really impressed about also the fact that you just get into the virtual aspect of it. Like I saw your animation. It's like your character is an animate puppet, like in moving with your mouth. Like it's so like amazing that you have this level also of technology around you.
Well, that has a lot to do also with the people that I work with and their contributions as well. So, you know,
you are surrounded with a good team.
I have a great team. Yes.
That's so cool. So let's look at the chat, because it's getting a lot of action over there. And yes, it's the stuff is like indicate. So we have Manuel who say hi, Keith. So
Manuel, yes.
Yeah, so maybe
amazing puppeteer from Puerto Rico.
Yeah, Manuel, nice to meet you. So here we have like the zeitgeist. It's indicate to pay.
You should have Manuel on your show sometime. He is a very interesting artist and as very influential in New York City and Puerto Rico as well.
For sure. So Manuel, we get in touch. So let me bring some other things of the chat. So we have Deborah who say like, yes, the thing with the pandemic was strange, and yes, that's true. She agree with that.
Also another puppeteer from Puerto Rico, and very the scene in Puerto Rico is amazing. Let me just say, so if you need to connect with some people from Puerto Rico and you want to have them on your show, let me know, because those people are doing some of my favorite work in the world right now.
Wow.
Just so creative, so inventive, so beautiful.
Yes, I feel, yes, this community is getting really active. And yeah, I want all of those contacts. I say yes. And yeah, we have here, thanks. Yes, Deborah acknowledge. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, and yes, Matthew, I would conclude with Matthew, say like your puppetry is original. So yeah, so for the conclusion, Keith, I always ask the puppeteer to bring something to the screen so we can feel and see and perceive more of your work. And yeah, so do you have something for us?
Well, I mean, I have a bunch of puppets here just behind me. They're just hanging up. So I'll just bring, let me see if I can get him down. This is, hold on, he's a little caught. And I have the headphones, so I'm trying to get this.
Yeah.
There we go. So I do really love this style of puppet of like the Czech rod marionette with a rod to the head, very simple. Because for me, I like to do a lot of sort of narrative style of puppet, and so this is a great format because it's the way that I make them. I build a lot of movement just into the puppet itself, so I can do one or two or sometimes even three at a time to tell a story. So you can see here I'm only holding one hand, but he already looks very lifelike. And so this is sort of, for me, one of my styles of puppetry that I like. I like this sort of Czech rod puppet marionette. I also really like like a classic hand puppet like this, just because I'm not a millionaire. I don't have a lot of money, and so when I do a performance, usually I only have maybe two, but usually either solo or one other person to do the performance with me. So I'm always trying to create a piece where I don't have to pay someone else, because I mean, as we all know, it's not the most always the most lucrative career choice, right? You don't make tons of money, so the less split that we have, I think the better, as far as just making money goes, but not as so
that's so cool. And it's your character, actually.
Yeah, this one is Toybox. This is a puppet of Toybox that I use a lot in sort of a lot of my pieces, a lot of my short pieces. I do a bunch of different styles of stuff. I do like a 45-minute puppet play, like you would think like a traditional puppet show, sometimes for children, sometimes for adults. But then I also do a lot of puppet slam, and I do a lot of short pieces, like 3 to 7 minutes long, and a lot of them I incorporate my dreams or real stories of my life, weird things that happen with me. And so if I do stories that are of my real life, I often use a little toy box as as me. So
yes, and I think people love this character. We have Kevin who say, I love how your character life is so many form. Yes, that's so interesting.
Kevin is also great. You should have him on your show. He does. He's been doing a show online. I think they do it every day. It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. He's like a machine. I can't even believe, and it's entertaining and fun every time. If you guys don't watch Kevin's show, it's called Wimmy's Words. It's great. I mean, every time I watch it, I'm just astounded at the fact that it's fun and engaging every single time. I don't know if I could do a show every day and be fun every day. So.
That's cool. So yeah, for sure, we love to connect with even more and more puppeteers. I love that. So Keith, if people want to see more of you, wants to contact you, where they should watch and go?
Okay, so Toybox Theatre is my Facebook page, and we do a weekly show. We have some sort of weekly thing every weekend on Toybox Theatre Facebook page. Either it's our normal show or it's an episode of our Puppet Slam. We've been doing the Puppet Slam every month since November, so we're just starting to do that. But the other show we've been doing, it's called What's in the Box with Toybox, and that show we've been doing since August. And there's a special guest every time, and usually the special guests are either other puppeteers or toy makers.
That's so cool. That's great. So Facebook is the good spot to
Yeah, Facebook. They can follow Toybox Theatre. Also the Wham Bam Puppet Slam. That's my Puppet Slam show that I've been doing with a group of amazing people, as you saw on Saturday for years. For over a decade, we've been doing that show too. So
that's awesome. So cool. So yeah, Keith, thank you so much for your time. It was so interesting to have you on the show. And
well, thank you for having me.
Yes, it's so fun to connect with talented people, and I feel we were touched. And yeah, thanks. Oh, we have here Nicole, who really she recommended me to interview you. So thank you, Nicole. It was a good cue. Those cues coming from all over. So that's awesome. So yeah, I will have to remove you of the screen. So
Okay.
I in this moment, sometimes I'm sad, but thank you so much, Keith.
Well, I
Yes,
can always come back sometime if you want me to.
yeah, and stay in the virtual studio. We could chat after this. I would do the conclusion. So bye.
Okay.
Yay, to everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Yes, we have those thanks. Thanks to you both. Yeah, for sure. We love to connect with you people. And yes, if you want to follow other episodes, you can look on YouTube, on Facebook. We have many episodes coming. We have this gala on Saturday, so you're all invited. And yes, I want to let you know that we offer also tools for puppeteers with their social media. So we have this coaching program that we start, and we want to help you to get more visibility online, to get more confident about your social media, or just confident about like getting people seeing your work and just selling online stuff or selling puppets. Or so we are in this kind of online switch and marketing on social media. So we want to help puppetry because I believe in it, and I bring Eli in this adventure, and we just bring our expertise to you guys. So feel free to have a look on our website or on our, let me bring it the banner, on our Patreon, because we are on Patreon, and we try to connect with other puppeteers who are on Patreon too. So we want to do collaboration. So feel free to write to us. So here is the address. So yeah, here we are. So everyone have a nice evening, and I wish you all the best. Stay creative, take care, and see you next week for another episode of the Puppet Podcast. Bye-bye.